They called her the ghost of Koreatown. Penelope Hart wasn't just the lover of the most dangerous man in Los Angeles. She was untouchable. She had the tragic backstory, the perfect Korean, and the fear of everyone in the room. But she made one fatal mistake. She forgot that the person serving her dinner sees everything. Tonight, a criminal empire built over 3 generations is going to burn. A power transfer is going to be stopped. And the most feared woman in Koreatown is going to be exposed for what she really is: a spy, an assassin, and a ghost from North Korea's darkest operations. And it all unravels because Juliana noticed something no one else did. Penelope's trauma scars were written in the wrong language. You won't believe how a waitress from Compton took down an international operative. Before we dive in, if you're already hooked, drop a like right now and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment. Let's get into it. The rain in Koreatown made the neon glow brighter, Korean characters blazing against wet asphalt like warnings. Inside Arirang Palace, Juliana Williams gripped her serving tray until her knuckles turned white. 26 years old, working double shifts to keep her brother at UCLA honoring a promise to a father who died with his detective's badge still warm. Tonight felt wrong, different. Table 8 is here, Manager Kim whispered, face pale with terror. Do not upset her. He didn't need to say the name. Penelope Hart. The lacquered doors exploded open. 4 bodyguards flooded in first mountains of muscle in Italian suits, earpieces glinting like technological tumors. Then came Seo Joon Kim, the Korean Mafia boss who controlled everything from San Francisco to San Diego. At 35, he looked like sole royalty in his tailored charcoal suit. But something was wrong. His skin had a grayish tint. His hands trembled slightly. He looked like a man being slowly poisoned. Everyone's eyes locked on the woman beside him. Penelope Hart moved like a predator in her emerald designer hanbok. Ice blonde hair, pale eyes, beauty weaponized for maximum damage. This place smells like a Seoul subway station, she announced in perfect Korean, too perfect. Juliana's instincts screamed. Juliana approached with practiced grace, smoothing her red shirt and black trousers. Good evening. May I start you with water? Korean brand only. None of that American poison. Penelope finally looked up, those colorless eyes boring into Juliana with venomous disdain. She cradled her left wrist protectively against her body. And tell me, do they hire you people because you're cheap, or because it looks progressive? The racial slur hung in the air like smoke. Seo Joon intervened softly. Juliana, isn't it? Your Korean is improving. Penelope's head snapped toward him, fury radiating like winter frost. You're complimenting the help? In front of me? Then Juliana saw it as Penelope reached for her water glass. Her sleeve rode up, scars on her wrist. Korean characters spelling Murgan, property. But something was wrong with them. The calligraphy style was North Korean orthography, specific stroke orders used only in DPRK documents. Her detective father had taught her one thing: trust your eyes when everyone else is blind. And her eyes just found something impossible. Juliana returned with crystal champagne flutes, and the seasonal banchan spread 12 small dishes arranged with geometric precision. As she leaned in to place the kimchi, she was close enough to see Penelope's wrist scars clearly under the restaurant's bright spotlights. The Korean characters mulgan, property or object, were raised and pink against pale skin. The story was famous in Koreatown. Penelope Hart, kidnapped at 19 by a Korean trafficking ring, branded like cattle, rescued by Seo Joon's father in a violent raid 5 years ago. She'd learned Korean to reclaim power over her trauma. The nerve damage in her left hand was supposedly permanent. It made her untouchable, a victim transformed into a queen. Anyone who questioned Penelope was victimizing her again. But Juliana had written a college paper on linguistic markers of the Korean divide. Those characters weren't just Korean. They were North Korean orthography-specific stroke orders that South Korea had abandoned after the war. For an LA trafficking victim marked by a South Korean gang, it was like finding British spelling in an American ransom note. Impossible. Is there a problem? Penelope's voice cut through Juliana's thoughts like a scalpel. Juliana looked up. Those pale eyes were boring into her face. She knew. Somehow. She knew Juliana had seen something wrong. No, ma'am. Just ensuring everything is perfect. A young busboy named Jin approached nervously to refill water glasses. His hands shook new higher. First week. As he leaned in, his elbow caught the edge of the table. A heavy stone soju cup teetered on the edge, tipped, and fell directly toward Penelope's emerald dress. What happened next lasted less than 1 second. Penelope's left hand, the one she'd been cradling tenderly just moments ago, claiming nerve damage from her captors, shot out like a striking cobra. The speed was inhuman. Military. Her reflexes were those of someone trained in hand-to-hand combat, not a trauma survivor with damaged nerves. She caught the falling cup inches from her lap, fingers wrapping around the stone with iron precision. For one frozen heartbeat, Penelope held the cup in her supposedly paralyzed hand, grip perfectly controlled. Juliana was the only person positioned to see it clearly. Jin was apologizing to the floor. Seojun was checking his phone. The bodyguards were watching the entrance. Only Juliana had witnessed the slip. Penelope's eyes flicked up and met Juliana's. Pure panic flashed across her face, raw, unguarded as she realized her mistake. Then that panic crystallized instantly into something far more dangerous, cold, calculating, murderous. She knew the waitress had seen through the performance. Slowly, deliberately, Penelope set the cup down. She let her left hand go limp again, draping it across her lap like a dead thing. "You clumsy fool," she shrieked at Jin, the traumatized victim act snapping back into place like a mask. "You almost ruined a $15,000 dress. It didn't touch you," Seojun said wearily, not looking up. "His incompetence threatened my safety." Penelope's voice rose theatrically. "I'm shaking. Look at me." She held up her right hand, trembling it dramatically, while her left hand, the one that had just performed a perfect combat catch, remained hidden under the table. Juliana stepped forward, pulse hammering. "Ma'am, Jin is very sorry. I witnessed everything. Nothing touched your dress." Penelope's head turned slowly, predator identifying prey. "You witnessed the whole thing," she repeated, each word dripping with threat. "How observant of you." "Yes, ma'am," Juliana said, holding her gaze. "I saw exactly what happened." Penelope smiled. It was reptilian, empty of warmth. She stood gracefully, moving close to Juliana under the pretense of adjusting her dress. Her voice dropped to a whisper only Juliana could hear. "I know people who can make you disappear. People who can plant evidence that sends you to prison for decades. You saw nothing. And if you ever look at me like you're smart again, I will destroy not just you, but everyone you love." Her whisper became a hiss. "Starting with that little brother at UCLA. Marcus, isn't it? Scholarship student? Would be a shame if he suddenly tested positive for drugs." The threat was so specific, so vicious, that Juliana felt punched. Penelope had researched her, had her investigated, knew about Marcus. This wasn't random cruelty. This was professional threat neutralization. Innocent people don't threaten witnesses. Trauma survivors don't have enemies investigated. And nerve damage doesn't heal itself for perfect catches. As Juliana backed away on trembling legs, one thought screamed in her mind louder than fear. Who the hell is Penelope Hart? At 2 a.m., Juliana sat in her small Compton apartment, laptop glowing in the darkness, surrounded by printouts that covered her coffee table like a conspiracy theorist's nightmare. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop seeing Penelope's hand shooting out with military precision. Couldn't stop hearing that whispered threat about Marcus. First, she confirmed her memory. She emailed her Korean history professor with a carefully worded question about distinguishing North and South Korean handwriting styles. "Doctor." Cho responded within the hour insomniacs of academia unite. North Korean Hangul used specific stroke orders and archaic letter forms that South Korea had modernized after the war. The characters Morgan on Penelope's scars were textbook DPRK military style, not soul gang graffiti. Juliana's hands shook as she typed the next search. Penelope Hart. She needed to find something: yearbook photos, traffic tickets, Social media posts from before 5 years ago. Everyone left digital traces. Facebook selfies, Instagram posts. Something. Nothing. Penelope Hart didn't exist before 2019. It was as if she'd materialized, fully formed, complete with tragic backstory and perfect Korean. Her father's detective instincts screamed in her mind. Complete absence of history is itself evidence of fabrication. She searched deeper, following a hunch that made her stomach twist. Korean Mafia bosses died unexpectedly. Date filters. Past 7 years. The results made her blood run cold. 2018. Park Jin-soo, San Francisco Korean mob boss, died of sudden heart failure at 42. No prior heart condition. His American girlfriend, a blonde woman named Patricia Hannigan, inherited his empire, then vanished. 2020. Lee Sang-min, Seattle's Korean organized crime leader, died in a random home invasion. His fiancée, a white woman named Petra Hartley, was the sole survivor. She inherited everything, then disappeared. 2021. Choi Min-jun, Las Vegas Korean syndicate boss, died in a car accident. His girlfriend, known only as PH, inherited his wealth and vanished within weeks. Every victim, Korean crime boss. Every girlfriend, blonde woman with initials PH. Every death, accidental. Every woman, gone without a trace after cashing out. Juliana pulled up photos from news archives. Different hairstyles, different makeup, sometimes different eye colors. But the bone structure. She ran them through a facial recognition app, 78% probability match. Penelope Hart was a serial killer. She grabbed her phone with trembling hands. Called her father's old partner, Detective Marcus Chen. 3 rings. Jules? It's 3 a.m. What's wrong? Uncle Marcus, I need to know about Korean gang trafficking busts in 2019, specifically ones involving American victims rescued by the Kim family. Long pause. Why are you asking about this? Please. It's important. Jules. His voice dropped to a warning. The only major bust in 2019 was a gambling operation. No trafficking charges. No American victims rescued. If someone's claiming otherwise, they're lying. What's going on? Juliana's world tilted. Penelope's entire origin story, the foundation of her relationship with Seo Jun, the reason everyone pitied and protected her, was completely fabricated. She searched one more term, fingers flying across keys. CIA North Korean sleeper agents diaspora. A declassified document from 1998 appeared on her screen. Her breath stopped. Operation Phantom Bride. Female DPRK operatives trained to infiltrate and destabilize Korean diaspora communities, particularly organized crime networks that threaten regime operations. The program had supposedly been discontinued in the early 2000s, but her father had taught her that intelligence programs never truly end. They just go darker, deeper. She thought of Seo Jun's gray skin, his trembling hands, the way he looked like a man fading from the inside out. He's being poisoned, slowly, carefully. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop searching things you shouldn't search. Last warning. They were monitoring her internet activity. Professional surveillance. Government level. Another buzz. Different unknown number. This one with an attached image, a photo of Marcus leaving his organic chemistry lab at UCLA. Timestamp from 4 hours ago. The message below it. Beautiful campus. Would be tragic if something happened there. Juliana's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. They weren't just watching her. They were watching her brother. She pulled the battery from her phone, grabbed the Arirang Palace staff directory, found Manager Kim's personal number, texted from Marcus's phone. Need to speak with Seo Jun Kim's grandmother urgently. About Miss Hart. Life or death. 5 minutes of agonizing silence. Then, you're insane. Delete this number. 30 seconds later. She'll be at restaurant tomorrow 10 a.m. for tea. Alone. You didn't hear this from me. Juliana allowed herself one moment of hope. The grandmother, a Korean War survivor, a North Korean defector. If anyone could recognize Penelope's accent, spot cultural inconsistencies, her brother's phone buzzed again. New message. 10 a.m. meeting cancelled. Grandmother fell ill suddenly. How unfortunate. The message was followed by a photo of an elderly Korean woman in a hospital bed, unconscious, tubes running from her arms. They'd gotten to Seo-jun's grandmother. Poisoned her to keep her from the meeting. Juliana stared at her research spread across the coffee table. Evidence of an international spy. A serial killer. A woman who'd murdered at least 4 Korean crime bosses and was actively poisoning a 5th. And the only person who knew the truth was a 26-year-old waitress from Compton who'd just been marked for elimination. Her laptop screen flickered. A new browser tab opened by itself. She hadn't touched anything. A single message appeared in the search bar, typing itself out letter by letter. You have 48 hours to forget everything, or Marcus dies first. Juliana arrived at Arirang Palace for her lunch shift with dark circles under her eyes and dread in her stomach. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying evidence and threats until they blurred together. As she tied her apron over her red shirt and black trousers in the staff room, she noticed Manager Kim avoiding her eyes, hands trembling as he organized reservation cards. Something was very wrong. The lunch service started normally tech executives, K-drama scouts, food bloggers. Then, around 1 p.m., Manager Kim approached her station, face ashen. Juliana, office. Now, her heart dropped to her feet. In the small office behind the kitchen, 2 LAPD officers waited. Detective Rodriguez, nameplate gleaming. His younger partner, Halmoni Park, standing in the corner, wringing her hands, and sitting delicately in a chair, dabbing at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Penelope Hart. Penelope looked up as Juliana entered. For one fraction of a second, Juliana saw triumph flash in those eyes before the mask of victimhood slid perfectly into place. That's her, Penelope said, voice breaking with manufactured emotion. That's the waitress who's been stalking me. What? Juliana's voice came out sharper than intended. I've never... Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions. Rodriguez interrupted. Miss Hart filed a restraining order this morning claiming you've been harassing her, following her to her home, and sending threatening messages. That's insane. I don't even know where she lives. Penelope's lip trembled perfectly. You were parked outside my building last night. Silver Honda Civic. My doorman has you on camera. Juliana's blood turned to ice. She did drive a silver Honda Civic, one of the most common cars in Los Angeles. Rodriguez held up his phone. Grainy security footage showed a silver Civic outside a luxury Beverly Hills building, time-stamped 11:47 p.m. license plate obscured. I was home in Compton. My building has security cameras. Your brother, Marcus? Penelope interrupted gently, sadly. The one you'd do anything to protect? The one whose scholarship you'd lie to preserve? The coded threat landed like a punch. Juliana was being framed, and her family was collateral. Rodriguez swiped through screenshots on his phone. Text messages, supposedly from Juliana's number, sent over the past 3 days. I know what you really are. Stop hurting him or I'll expose you. You won't get away with this. I'm watching you. I never sent those. Someone spoofed my number. Or you sent them and now you're lying, Penelope said softly, almost kindly. I understand. You developed an obsession with Seo-jun. You saw him with me and became jealous. It's a psychological condition, erotomania. You convinced yourself he needed saving from me. Her voice dripped with compassion. I don't blame you. I pity you. The performance was flawless. Even Halmoni Park looked uncertain now. We need to search your locker, Rodriguez said. Miss Hart claims you may have stolen personal items. I've never been to her home. Manager Kim produced the master key with trembling hands. Locker number 7 swung open. Inside were Juliana's street clothes, textbooks, backup apron, and sitting prominently on top a delicate platinum bracelet encrusted with diamonds. 6 figures minimum, Penelope gasped, covering her mouth. That's my grandmother's bracelet. It went missing from my dresser last week. I've never seen that before in my life. Juliana's voice was hollow. She knew how this looked. Knew she was being perfectly, professionally destroyed. Rodriguez pulled out an evidence bag. His partner started reading Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Wait! Halmoni Park stepped forward. That bracelet, I saw Miss Hart wearing it yesterday. Here, at dinner. How could it have been stolen last week? Penelope's eyes flickered toward the elderly chef, calculating instantly. I had it repaired and picked it up yesterday, Grandmother Park. The theft happened before that. I didn't want to cause alarm. The lie was smooth. Instantaneous. Penelope had an answer for everything. Rodriguez's phone rang. He stepped aside, listened intently. His expression shifted. We need to hold off on the arrest. Captain wants us back at the station. To Juliana. Don't leave town. To Penelope. We'll continue investigating, ma'am. As the officers left, Penelope's sweet expression evaporated like morning dew. She stepped close to Juliana, close enough that no one else could hear. I gave you a chance to take the easy way out, Penelope whispered in perfect Korean, then switched mid-sentence to something that made Juliana's blood freeze. North Korean Pyongyang speech, formal and militaristic. 당신은 실수를 했어요. You made a mistake. She switched back to English, American accent returning seamlessly. The next frame won't offer you treatment. It'll offer you a body bag. Stay away from Seojun. Stay away from the ceremony. Her voice dropped to a lethal whisper. Or your little brother has a very unfortunate accident during his organic chemistry lab. You know how dangerous those Bunsen burners can be. Penelope walked out, leaving Juliana standing in the small office, unarrested but not free, framed but not yet charged. Manager Kim approached cautiously. Juliana, take some time off, for your safety. She's going to kill him, Juliana said quietly. She's going to kill Seo-jun, and I'm the only one who knows. Even if that's true, Manager Kim said, voice barely audible. Who's going to believe you now? You're the obsessed stalker with stolen property in your locker. She's the sympathetic survivor. You've been neutralized. He was right. Penelope had executed a perfect discrediting operation. Anything Juliana said now would sound like delusional ravings. But as Juliana left Arirang Palace possibly for the last time, one thought burned through her fear. Penelope had made a mistake. She'd revealed she knew Marcus's chemistry lab schedule surveillance-level intelligence. She'd switched to North Korean military dialect for 3 words, a slip that confirmed everything, and most importantly, she'd shown fear. If Juliana was just a delusional waitress, Penelope would have ignored her. Instead, she'd deployed a sophisticated frame operation, which meant Juliana was a real threat. That night, Juliana didn't go home. She paid cash at a random motel in Gardena under a fake name, choosing it specifically because it was off any route she'd normally take. She pulled her father's old detective handbook from her bag, thinking she'd covered her tracks. Her phone buzzed one last time before she pulled the battery. Unknown number. A video file. She pressed play. The footage showed Marcus walking across UCLA campus, completely unaware. Red crosshairs superimposed on his head, tracking his movement with sniper precision. The video ended with a single message. 48 hours. Forget everything. Or watch. They'd found her despite her precautions. They had resources beyond anything she'd imagined. Juliana woke at 4 a.m. to her motel room door splintering off its hinges. She rolled off the bed on pure instinct as 2 dark figures burst through not police uniforms, moving with tactical precision that screamed military training. FBI! Get on the ground! But something was wrong. Real federal agents announced themselves before breaching. These men wore black tactical gear with no insignia, no identification. Penelope's people. They'd tracked her phone before she pulled the battery or followed her from the restaurant. Juliana's father's defensive training kicked in. She grabbed the lamp and swung hard at the first figure, connecting with his jaw. He barely slowed. The second figure flanked her. She dove for the bathroom, slammed the door, locked it. Flimsy wouldn't hold long. She pushed open the frosted window and squeezed through, dropping 8 feet into the parking lot. Pain shot through her ankle, but adrenaline overrode it. She ran. Her Honda was 3 buildings down. Boots hammered pavement behind her, closing fast. She fumbled for keys, threw herself inside, peeled out as a hand slammed against her window. She drove aimlessly through pre-dawn Los Angeles, checking mirrors obsessively, until her phone rang. Unknown number. Against every instinct, she answered. Juliana Williams. The voice was male, heavily accented Korean. You've attracted dangerous attention. Pull into the 7-Eleven on Western and 8th. White van. You have 3 minutes before they triangulate this call. The line went dead. Obviously a trap. But it was a trap that knew Penelope's real identity. Juliana pulled in with 30 seconds to spare. The van's side door slid open. Inside sat an elderly Korean man in an expensive suit, flanked by bodyguards. She recognized him from news photos. Kim Tae-yang, Seo-jun's uncle. Get in before they kill you. She climbed in. The van moved before the door fully closed. My nephew is dying, Tae-yang said, lighting a cigarette. And that woman is killing him. Then you started asking questions, and suddenly you're being framed. He pulled out a folder. Penelope Hart doesn't exist, but Park Mi-sun does. He showed her a photograph, a North Korean military ID from 2015. Younger, darker hair, but the bone structure was unmistakable. Park Mi-sun, Unit 180, North Korean Reconnaissance General Bureau, specialized in infiltration of Korean diaspora communities, declared dead in 2017. Or so everyone believed. He pulled out more documents. She's a phantom bride, that's what they call female operatives who marry their way into enemy organizations. She's been killing Korean crime bosses for years. Why? Juliana breathed. Because we're competition. The regime funds itself through criminal enterprises. We control the same markets. He pulled out a small vial of clear liquid. This is what she's been using. Blowfish-derived cardiac toxin. Seo-jun has maybe a week before organ failure becomes irreversible. The ceremony, Juliana said. She's going to finish it at the ancestral rites. We believe she has diplomatic immunity. If we expose her without perfect proof, she flees to the consulate. Tae-yang handed her a new phone and ID badge. You're Minji Park, temp catering staff. I've had contingency identities prepared for weeks, ever since I started suspecting her. The agency is one we control. You'll have 4 hours inside the estate before her people cross-reference the staff list. 4 hours to expose an international spy. If you fail, my nephew dies. North Korea gets a foothold in our operations, and they'll kill you and your brother. He leaned forward, eyes hard. The ceremony is tomorrow night. Can you do this? Juliana thought of her father, of justice, of Marcus's cross-haired head in that video. I can do this. Taeyong's phone buzzed. He checked it. His face went pale. Change of plans. They just moved the ceremony up. It's tonight. 6 hours from now. The Kim estate in Pacific Palisades sat behind 12-foot walls like a fortress disguised as a mansion. Juliana arrived at 3 p.m. with the catering company's first-wave kitchen staff, servers, decoration coordinators. Her fake ID as Minji Park passed the first security checkpoint, but she felt the weight of surveillance cameras tracking every movement. Somewhere in a security room, Penelope's people might be running facial recognition right now. Tae-young had said she had 4 hours. She'd have to work fast. The estate's interior was a masterpiece of Korean-American fusion traditional Hanok architecture merged with California modernism. The main hall was already being prepared. Ancestral altar, portrait of Seo-jun's grandfather, elaborate food offerings, incense burners. Juliana kept her head down, arranging ceremonial rice cakes and fruit displays, but her eyes constantly moved, cataloging exits, noting Penelope's location, watching Seo-jun. He looked worse than at the restaurant. His skin had a grayish pallor like death was already claiming him. His movements were slow, effortful. He sat in a chair near the altar, supervised by a private physician who kept checking his vitals with increasing concern. The poison was reaching critical accumulation. He was dying visibly now. Penelope floated through the preparations like a general inspecting troops before battle. She'd changed from her emerald dress into a stunning hanbok in ivory and gold for the ceremony traditional Korean dress, so perfectly executed it must have cost tens of thousands. Every detail was flawless. The embroidered symbols, the way she'd arranged her hair, the graceful way she moved. She spoke Korean exclusively, her accent impeccable, her knowledge of ceremonial protocol apparently perfect. Watching her, Juliana felt a wave of doubt crash over her. What if Penelope really was this good? What if there was no way to break this performance? You! Penelope's voice cut across the room like a whip crack. Juliana's heart stopped. She looked up. Penelope was pointing directly at her. The rice cakes are arranged wrong. White ones should be in front, symbolizing purity. Are you new? Juliana bowed in the Korean style, keeping her face partially hidden. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. She rearranged the cakes quickly, correctly, hands trembling. Penelope studied her for a long, terrible moment. Those eyes lingered, suspicious but not certain. You look familiar. I have one of those faces, ma'am. Juliana kept her voice soft, accent slightly modified. Penelope's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled coldly, and walked away. Juliana's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the serving plates. That was too close. Way too close. She retreated to the kitchen where the head chef, one of Taeyang's people, gave her a subtle nod. Grandmother Kim is upstairs. Room 7. We gave her the antidote for the poison they used on her. She's recovering and preparing. She'll come down for the ceremony. How do I get Penelope to slip? She's perfect. No one's perfect, the chef whispered. The prayers tonight include a specific dialect from the Hamgyong region Sojun's ancestral village in what's now North Korea. It's a dying dialect. Penelope likely memorized standard Seoul Korean. When grandmother leads that prayer, watch Penelope's lips. If she can't follow exactly, grandmother will know. At 6 p.m., guests began arriving. Members of the Kim family, associated crime families, respected elders from the Korean community. Juliana counted at least 40 people. The ceremony would be public enough that any exposure would be irreversible. At 6:30, the main hall doors opened. The ceremony was beginning. Juliana positioned herself along the wall with other service staff, holding a tray of ceremonial wine. Seo-jun sat in the place of honor, barely able to keep himself upright, his uncle Taeyang beside him. Family members arranged by status and hierarchy. And there, in the position reserved for the family's honored guest, practically a member, already sat Penelope in her ivory and gold hanbok, her face a mask of serene reverence. The doors opened again. Silence fell like a physical weight. Seo-jun's grandmother entered, supported by attendants. Kim Sun-hee was 89 years old, tiny and frail, but her eyes were sharp as broken glass. She was a living legend in Koreatown, a woman who'd walked across the DMZ in 1951 with her infant son strapped to her back, escaping the North Korean regime with nothing but determination and fury. Despite being poisoned just days ago, the antidote had restored enough strength for her to attend. She shuffled to her seat at the altar's head. Everyone bowed deeply, showing respect that transcended fear. Her eyes swept the room and landed on Penelope. For a long, suspended moment, the two women stared at each other, the ancient defector who'd survived the regime, and the young spy sent by that same regime decades later. Then Grandmother Kim nodded slightly and turned to the altar. The ceremony began with traditional elements, lighting of incense, offering of rice and fruit, formal bows performed with precise choreography. Juliana watched Penelope perform each ritual flawlessly, her movements perfect, her expression appropriately reverent. Then came the prayers. Grandmother Kim's voice, thin but strong, began to recite in the old Hamgyong dialect, a Korean so archaic and regional that even some native speakers struggled with it. Juliana couldn't understand most of it, but she watched Penelope's lips move, following along. Penelope was good. She was mouthing the words, her expression reverent. But Juliana noticed something crucial. There was a half-second delay, as if Penelope was listening first, then repeating. She didn't know the prayer by heart. She was mimicking. Grandmother Kim noticed too. Her eyes flickered toward Penelope mid-prayer, narrowing almost imperceptibly. After the prayer, Grandmother Kim did something unexpected. Something that shattered protocol. She looked directly at Penelope, and spoke in rapid Hamgyong dialect. Child, please lead us in the next prayer, the one for safe passage of the ancestors' spirit. Your devotion has been so noted. We would be honored. The room went still. It was a test. A brutal, public test. Penelope's face remained serene, but Juliana saw her jaw tighten microscopically, the only crack in the perfect facade. Honored, grandmother, Penelope replied in flawless Seoul Korean. I am not worthy to lead prayers in your presence. I insist, Grandmother Kim said, still in the old dialect, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd survived what Penelope's masters had created. We would all benefit from hearing your voice honor our ancestors. Checkmate. Penelope couldn't refuse without appearing disrespectful, but she clearly didn't know the specific family prayer in the specific regional dialect. The room waited, 40 pairs of eyes watching. Penelope stood gracefully, moved to the altar, knelt, and began to speak. Penelope closed her eyes and began to speak. The Korean was beautiful, fluid, flawless, reverent, but it was standard Seoul dialect, not Hamgyong. She was reciting a generic ancestral prayer, the kind found in modern ceremonial books, not the family-specific ritual grandmother had requested. To most of the room, it sounded fine. Beautiful, even. But Grandmother Kim's expression shifted, subtle disappointment mixed with grim confirmation. She knew. After Penelope finished and returned to her seat, Grandmother didn't comment. But she looked at Taeyang and gave him the slightest nod. The first crack had appeared. But Juliana knew it wasn't enough. The prayer could be explained away: nervousness, regional differences, modern adaptation. She needed something undeniable. Then she saw her opportunity. On the altar, among the offerings, was a traditional Korean key, an old-fashioned metal key symbolizing opening doors between worlds. It was part of the family's specific ceremonial tradition. During a break in the ceremony, as people shifted positions, Juliana approached the altar on the pretense of refilling incense. She deliberately fumbled, knocking the ceremonial key off the altar. It clattered loudly on the floor, rolling directly toward Penelope. "Oh no!" Juliana gasped in Korean, playing the clumsy new server perfectly. "I'm so sorry." The key stopped at Penelope's feet. Everyone was watching. Penelope reached down gracefully to pick it up. And in that moment, Juliana spoke loudly in the most formal North Korean military dialect she'd learned from her research, a phrase so specific it could only come from DPRK protocol. 동무. 물건을 조심히 다루세요. Comrade, handle the object carefully. It was a trap. In South Korea, no one used dongmu, comrade, that was exclusively North Korean socialist terminology. The phrasing was purely DPRK military speak. Juliana was gambling that if Penelope was a trained operative, her reflexive response to formal military Korean would bypass her American cover. And it worked. Penelope's hand froze on the key. Her head snapped toward Juliana, and for one fraction of a second, she responded in perfect Pyongyang-accented Korean. 네, 알겠습니다. Yes, understood. The accent was unmistakable, hard consonants, specific vowel sounds, formal military acknowledgement. It was the voice of someone who'd learned Korean not in Seoul, but in Pyongyang, in North Korea. Grandmother Kim heard it. Her entire body went rigid. She stood up, her frail frame suddenly radiating authority that silenced the room. "What did you say?" She demanded in the Hamgyong dialect she'd spoken before fleeing the north. "Where did you learn to speak like that?" Penelope realized her mistake instantly. The mask slipped. The serene fiancé disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating, a predator caught in a trap, evaluating escape routes. I simply responded to the server, Penelope said, switching back to her flawless Seoul accent. "I don't understand." "You spoke in the voice of the People's Republic," Grandmother Kim said, her voice shaking with rage and recognition. "I know that accent. I fled from that accent. I lost my family to people who spoke with that accent." She pointed a trembling finger. "You are no South Korean. You are no American. You are from the North." The room erupted. Seo-jun struggled to his feet, confused and weakening. "Grandmother, what are you saying?" "She's a spy!" Grandmother shrieked. "A North Korean spy, come to kill you like she killed the others." Penelope stood slowly. The transformation was shocking. Her entire physicality changed. Gone was the traumatized fiancé, the gentle lover. In her place stood a trained operative, balanced and lethal. "You've made a mistake, old woman," Penelope said. And now her accent was purely North Korean, dropping the pretense entirely. One defector's delusion won't stop what's already in motion. She reached into her handbag where no one expected a weapon and pulled out a small syringe filled with clear liquid. Seo Jun's organs are already failing. This just speeds the inevitable. She looked directly at Juliana. He'll die a martyr, poisoned by the obsessed stalker. Penelope lunged toward Seo Jun with the syringe. Juliana was already moving. She threw the ceremonial tray like a discus, years of track and field paying off. The heavy silver plate spun through the air and connected with Penelope's wrist. The syringe flew from her grip, shattering against the altar. Bodyguards moved, but Penelope was faster trained for this. She kicked backward, dropping one guard, moved toward the exit, but Grandmother Kim stepped into her path. "You will not dishonor my family's ceremony." Penelope could have pushed past her easily, but something in the old woman's eyes made her hesitate. That hesitation was fatal. Taeyang's men surrounded her, guns drawn. "It's over," Taeyang said. "We have everything. The poison, your real identity, the other deaths. Unit 180 Operative Park Mi-sun." Penelope smiled, cold, calculating. "I have diplomatic immunity, North Korean diplomatic passport. You can't touch me. I'll be in the consulate within an hour." The sound of sirens confirmed her words. Federal vehicles were already pulling up outside. FBI agents flooded into the hall, led by Special Agent Morrison. But as they moved to arrest Penelope, Morrison's phone buzzed. He checked it. His expression changed from confident to frustrated. "Sir," a junior agent said quietly, "State Department just confirmed diplomatic credentials for Park Hae-jin, North Korean consular attaché. Photo matches. Filed 20 minutes ago." Morrison's jaw tightened. "When?" "Retroactive diplomatic registration through back channels." It was a Hail Mary play, but it was working. Penelope's diplomatic status was materializing from bureaucratic ether. "We can hold her for 48 hours, Morrison said. "But if North Korea insists on diplomatic protection..." Juliana watched in disbelief as certainty evaporated into diplomatic red tape. They'd exposed her. They'd stopped the assassination. But Penelope was going to walk. "The FBI will pursue this through proper channels," Morrison said grimly. Through proper channels meant Penelope would be escorted to the North Korean consulate, held briefly, then evacuated back to Pyongyang. She'd either be celebrated or executed for failing, but she'd never face American justice. As federal agents led her away, Penelope looked at Juliana one last time. "You should be proud," she said. "You survived longer than most people who cross me." "I didn't survive you," Juliana said. "I ended you." But as the convoy pulled away, taking Penelope toward 48 hours of processing before freedom, Juliana realized something terrifying. Ending her and stopping her were two different things. And right now, the most dangerous spy she'd ever encountered was about to disappear into the protection of a foreign government, unless someone did something impossible in the next 48 hours. The North Korean consulate in Mid-Wilshire occupied a nondescript office building surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Sovereign territory crossing that threshold meant entering North Korean jurisdiction where American law couldn't reach, which is exactly why Juliana was about to break in. She sat in a coffee shop across the street at 11 p.m., watching security patterns. Taeyang's intel said Penelope was being held third floor, awaiting processing before extraction tomorrow morning. 4 guards, 1 diplomat. Penelope. "This is insane!" Taeyang's voice crackled through her earpiece. "You have no training." "I have desperation," Juliana whispered. "That's better than training." She checked her bag one last time. Not a gun or knife, but something far more dangerous in the modern world. A live stream setup. Smartphone, portable battery, backup phone, every major media outlet's email preloaded. The plan was terrifying in its simplicity. Get inside, confront Penelope on camera, broadcast her confession live to the world before anyone could stop it. Diplomatic immunity couldn't protect against public exposure so massive that even North Korea would have to abandon her. Service entrance guard changes in 3 minutes, Taeyong said. Janitor will leave door unlocked for 60 seconds. The guard change happened exactly on schedule. Juliana slipped through in 58 seconds, finding herself in a dimly lit hallway that smelled of cleaning chemicals and kimchi. She was inside North Korean territory now. Technically, she'd just committed an international incident. She moved through service corridors, avoiding cameras. 3rd floor, northeast corner office. She climbed service stairs, phone already streaming to a private server that would go public the moment she triggered it. Outside the office door, she paused. This was the point of no return. She thought of her father one last time. Justice doesn't care who's scared of it, Jules. She opened the door. Penelope sat at a desk, drinking tea, reading intelligence reports. She looked up as Juliana entered. Genuine surprise crossed her face. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," Penelope said. "Probably both," Juliana admitted. She pulled out her phone, set it on the desk, camera facing Penelope. "We're live, streaming to every major news outlet in America. Say hello to your audience." Penelope's eyes widened. She dove for the phone. Juliana yanked it back, held it high, the live stream showing Penelope's aggressive lunge. "That's not very diplomatic," Juliana said. "Viewers, meet Park Mi-sun, Unit 180, North Korean Reconnaissance General Bureau, serial killer of Korean-American crime bosses." "You stupid girl," Penelope hissed. "This is sovereign territory. I can kill you right now." "Go ahead. Do it on camera. Show the world what North Korean diplomacy really looks like." Juliana kept the phone steady. The viewer count was climbing. 1,200, 2,000, 5,000. Someone had noticed the feed. "What do you want?" "The truth. On camera. Tell the world about the Phantom Bride program." Penelope studied her, calculating odds. The livestream counter exploded. 15,000, 30,000. News channels were embedding the feed. This was becoming international news in real time. Penelope saw the counter. She understood. The cat was out. Damage control was impossible. "Fine," she said in flawless North Korean accented Korean. "The Phantom Bride program has been operational since 1987. I'm the 11th generation. We're trained from age 6 in infiltration and assassination. I've personally eliminated 6 targets across 3 countries. And yes, there are currently 5 other active operatives in the United States." The viewers exploded. 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. "Names," Juliana demanded. "Give me their American identities." Seattle operative, Catherine Lee, engaged to Tommy Park. San Francisco, Julia Kim, married to David Choi. Houston, Michelle Hahn, girlfriend of James Song. Information flowed: names, locations, photographs. Penelope pulled up on her phone. The counter hit 250,000. Every intelligence agency in the world was watching this. North Korea's most secret program being exposed in real time. The door burst open. A North Korean guard rushed in, gun drawn. "Step away from her!" Juliana kept the phone steady, keeping both in frame. 300,000 viewers watched an armed guard point a weapon at an American citizen on North Korean sovereign territory. "Shoot me and you create an international incident that your consulate can't contain," Juliana said calmly. "This is being watched by 500,000 people." The guard hesitated. Penelope made her decision. "Stand down," she ordered in Korean. Then to Juliana. "You win. Get me out of here alive into American protective custody. If I stay 1 more hour, my own people will execute me for this failure." "Deal. Start talking." Penelope continued confessing as the guard's radio crackled urgent Korean. Orders to shut down the broadcast immediately, by any means necessary. The guard raised his weapon again. This time at the phone. He fired. The phone exploded in Juliana's hand. The live stream cut to black at 400,000 viewers, but Juliana was already pulling out the backup phone, secondary stream running. "Nice try," she said, showing the camera to 450,000 viewers who'd seamlessly transferred. Where were we? More guards poured in. But before they could act, the building's fire alarm began blaring Taeyang's people, creating chaos. In the confusion, Juliana grabbed Penelope's arm. "We're leaving. Now. The exits are blocked," Penelope said. "I have another way. Service elevator to the parking garage. Diplomatic vehicles, protected by traffic law once they left consular grounds." They ran through chaos, alarms screaming, the live stream bouncing wildly but still broadcasting. Juliana's viewer count, 600,000. They reached the garage. A black diplomatic car sat with keys in the ignition, engine running Taeyang's inside man. They jumped in. Juliana floored it toward the exit. Guards ran, shouting, but couldn't shoot. American citizens were watching live. The gate was closing. Juliana accelerated. The car burst through the lowering barrier, metal scraping, and then they were on American soil, surrounded by LAPD cars and FBI vehicles responding to the live-streamed diplomatic crisis. Juliana slammed the brakes, put the car in park, turned the camera on herself and Penelope in the front seat. "This is Juliana Williams, American citizen. I'm surrendering myself and Park Mi-sun, North Korean intelligence operative, to FBI custody. Everything you watched was real. The Phantom Bride program is real. The names she gave are real." She ended the stream. Final count, 847,000 people. The biggest intelligence leak in modern espionage history. FBI agents surrounded the car, weapons drawn. As they were pulled out, Special Agent Morrison approached, expression torn between fury and grudging respect. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" "Yes," Juliana said. "I exposed an international spy network and saved lives." She looked at Penelope being handcuffed, no longer protected by diplomatic immunity because she'd voluntarily left consular grounds. The Phantom Bride had been dragged into light so bright even her own government couldn't hide her. But as federal agents loaded Penelope into a transport vehicle, Penelope looked at Juliana one last time. "You just made yourself the most famous intelligence asset in the world. Every spy agency, every foreign government, every criminal organization now knows your face, your name, your capabilities." Her smile was cold. "You think you can go back to being a waitress? You're a target now. For life." The words sent ice through Juliana's veins. She hadn't thought about what came after. She'd only thought about winning. FBI agents surrounded the diplomatic car, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Juliana and Penelope raised their hands, pulled from the vehicle, separated immediately. As Penelope was loaded into a federal transport no longer protected by diplomatic immunity because she'd voluntarily fled consular grounds, Special Agent Morrison approached Juliana. "You're either getting arrested or getting recruited," he said. "I haven't decided which." "Can I choose neither?" Juliana asked. "I just want to go home." But she knew, even as she said it, that home didn't exist anymore. The waitress who'd served dinner 5 days ago was gone. In her place stood someone the world had watched take down an international spy network. Morrison actually smiled. "We'll be in touch." 3 months later, Juliana sat in a quiet corner booth at Halmoni's Kitchen, a new Korean restaurant in Koreatown, smaller than Arirang Palace but warm, family-owned. She was reading the newspaper, though she already knew what it said. The headlines had been unavoidable for weeks. Phantom Bride conspiracy. North Korean spy network exposed. 3 more operatives arrested in nationwide sweep. Live stream spy confession reaches 20 million views. The fallout had been seismic. Penelope Park Mi-sun was in federal custody, cooperating fully in exchange for asylum and protection. The 3 operatives she'd named had been arrested: Catherine Lee in Seattle, Julia Kim in San Francisco, Michelle Han in Houston. Their marriages annulled, their targets rescued from slow poisoning. A 4th operative had committed suicide before capture. The 5th had disappeared, likely evacuated by North Korean intelligence before the net closed. North Korea issued furious denials, but the live stream had been watched by 20 million people within 48 hours. The evidence was undeniable. Seo Jun had survived. Barely. The toxin had caused permanent heart damage, but aggressive treatment saved his life. He'd made a public statement announcing his complete exit from organized crime, his cooperation with federal authorities, and his commitment to legitimate business. The Kim family empire was being dismantled and rebuilt, this time legally. Grandmother Kim Sun-hee had become a media sensation, the 89-year-old North Korean defector who'd spotted the spy by her accent. She'd given exactly one interview, saying simply, "I survived them once. I survived them again." Tae-yang had quietly retired to Hawaii, having negotiated immunity for his cooperation. And Juliana? She'd become uncomfortably, unavoidably famous. Book deals, movie rights, speaking engagements, she'd turned them all down. "You're late," a voice said. Juliana looked up. Seo-jun Kim stood by her table, looking thinner but healthier. The pallor was gone. He wore a simple sweater and jeans, the crime boss aesthetic abandoned for something almost normal. "Sorry." "Traffic," Juliana said. Seo-jun sat down. "You're a terrible liar." They ordered tea. The formality of their previous interactions had dissolved into something like friendship forged in shared trauma. "I wanted to thank you properly," Seo-jun said. "You saved my life. You could have stayed invisible, stayed safe. Why didn't you?" "My father was a detective. He taught me truth matters more than safety." "Your father was wise." Seo-jun pulled an envelope from his jacket. Inside was a handwritten letter in Korean from Grandmother Kim. Juliana translated slowly, eyes stinging with tears. "Young woman who sees clearly, you honored our family with truth. You protected my grandson when I could not. In Korean tradition, such debt is called une unhae, a grace that cannot be repaid, only honored. You proved that honor is not about where you come from, but who you choose to be. Come to dinner next week. Let an old woman cook for you properly." "I'd be honored," Juliana said. "And I have something else." Seo-jun pulled out business documents. "I'm starting a security consulting firm, helping Korean-American businesses protect themselves from the infiltration that almost destroyed me. I need someone who understands both cultures, who sees what others miss." He slid the papers toward her. "Equal partnership. Kim and Williams Security Consulting. I'm a waitress with community college credits. You exposed a spy network the CIA missed for 30 years. Seo-jun interrupted. "You're the most qualified person I know." Her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. "Just got accepted to grad school, full scholarship." "We did it, sis." Juliana smiled. Her father's promise kept. Marcus's future secured. "The FBI also wants to hire me," she admitted. "Consultant for cultural liaison work." "Then do both," Seo-jun said. "The offer stands. But Juliana, you can't go back to being invisible. Your face has been on every news channel. You might as well use that visibility for something good." 6 months later, the firm of Kim and Williams Security Consulting opened its doors in a renovated Koreatown building. Their first client was a Korean restaurant owner who suspected his new girlfriend was too good to be true. Their second was a tech CEO worried about corporate espionage. Their third was the FBI, contracting them for cultural awareness training. Juliana stood at her office window, looking out at the city that had transformed her from invisible to essential. She thought of her father's words. "Truth doesn't care who believes it, Jules. It just waits to be found." She'd found it. And in finding it, found herself, the waitress who'd taken down a spy network with a serving tray and a smartphone. The woman who'd proven that the most dangerous weapon in any room wasn't diplomatic immunity, it was a pair of eyes that refused to look away. Justice had been served. Cold. Complete. Undeniable. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct sharpened by the past months, she answered. Silence. Then a woman's voice, Korean accent but not South Korean. Not even standard North Korean. Something older, deeper, more dangerous. Juliana Williams, the waitress who sees ghosts. The voice was almost amused. "You exposed one phantom bride. Congratulations. But did you really think there were only 5? Her blood turned to ice. "The program is older than you can imagine, deeper than you discovered. and you just became our highest priority target. A pause. Not to kill you. That would be wasteful. To recruit you, I'll never. We'll see. Check your office mailbox. We left you a gift. Consider it an invitation. The line went dead. Juliana ran to the office mailbox downstairs, heart hammering. Inside was a single manila envelope. No return address. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph of her taken this morning outside her apartment, completely unaware. And behind her in the frame, barely visible in the crowd, a woman with dark hair and a familiar cold expression. Penelope. But Penelope was in federal custody, unless a note fell from the envelope, handwritten in perfect Korean. Park Mi-sun was 11th generation. I am first, and I've been watching you since the night you noticed the scars. You passed the test, Juliana. Welcome to the real game. The signature at the bottom was a simple symbol, a black widow spider inside a triangle. Juliana's phone rang again. This time it was Morrison from the FBI. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Park Mi-sun escaped federal custody 2 hours ago, and we just received intelligence that she wasn't the handler. She was bait. Bait for what? For finding someone like you. Someone who could see what trained agents couldn't. Morrison's voice was grim. Congratulations, Miss Williams. North Korea just recruited their first American-born phantom bride, whether you want the job or not. Outside Juliana's window, in the Koreatown street below, a woman in a black coat looked up at her office, made eye contact, and smiled, then disappeared into the crowd like smoke. The game wasn't over. It had just begun. The ghost of Koreatown got exposed, but the real phantom bride just revealed herself. Subscribe if you want part 2. Comment if you caught all the clues. Like if this story had you hooked. Let's go!